Welcome back to Prolight and Sound BIZLounge 2021, and welcome to our panel called Education, No Future, Academic Education in Uncertain Times. Now, the crisis has brought a great deal of uncertainty in regards to careers in the event industry. Young people are reconsidering pursuing degrees in a sector that appears to have either disappeared or will probably soon go completely digital. And please welcome our guests of today from the Mittelhessen University of Applied Sciences in Gießen, Professor Dr. Arno Gramatke. From the HAW Hamburg University of Applied Sciences, Professor Dr. Roland Greule. And from Beuth University of Applied Sciences in Berlin, Professor Thomas Zagrzewski. And welcome back here in the studio with me, Director of Commerce and International Affairs of the German Entertainment Technology Association, Randall Greenlee. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Felix. Yeah, great to have this great panel from three good universities here in Germany. And my first question would really be, are your universities in any way adapting to the situation that we call the COVID crisis? What's going on at the university level at the moment during the COVID crisis? I think I'll ask Arno first. What's happening in Mittelhessen?
Well, a lot, actually. I mean, the question, do we adapt or not, is basically not a real question, because we have to adapt. And there's just that way of doing it. But before I talk about how we adapt, let me put one thing first. The health of our students and the professors and everybody working with us is our top priority. So with what I'm talking about, just always keep that in mind, please. So what we're doing is we shifted all courses to be completely online. So we're doing everything remote at the moment. And some of the courses are being held in a synchronous way, like doing Zoom sessions and doing the lectures and things, and just like at the same time as we did during a regular semester. And on the other hand, we are also pre-producing content to let students watch those videos or learn those things at the time that they would like to do it, because a lot of students lost their students' jobs. They need to work, for example, in factories now to earn some money, and they cannot make the regular times. So a lot of stuff we're doing asynchronously. Yeah, that's basically the things we're doing with all the pros and cons of it.
How's it look like in Hamburg, Roland?
1 year the discussion about digital lectures. We hope that we can changing into laboratories, but in the moment I think we will be also in this summer semester be on digital. And it's very interesting. The possibility that we see is to get people with Zoom, with Teams. I think the great problem is we see not our students or we see not our colleagues, but in the moment we can discussion with the students and we have a very good connection with it. But I think it's also a problem to don't see it in real, in face-to-face. That's the one of the problem. I think it's the same as Arno, as Thomas and his university has.
Yeah, then let's move then to Berlin, to the capital. Thomas, what's it look like at the Beuth University?
Well, the capital means that maybe the question is wrong. It is not about adaptation. Maybe it's about a kind of revolution we have to face. So it is not only a question to have courses hybrid, digital, or in real time, real life. At the moment, like any other university, like at Arno or Roland, Gießen or Hamburg, we only have got online courses during the 1 year. What we have to do, I think, is not only changing the system of education, which means online courses, and we have to learn, even change maybe the topics, the content. And this is what we try to do. For example, in the course event safety in the fourth semester, it was focused on event safety in the sense of Sicherheitskonzepte, security, cloud management technologies. And now I have to shift. I have to shift topics to hygiene concept, infection control, and what that means. So this is only one example. My colleagues do other topics during their seminars and their. We have to face a new situation, and we have to answer questions of the students. What can we do? Is there any restart? Sorry, Randall, I know the restart program is one of your ideas, but we have to face that this restart will be difficult. So it's not only a question of technologies, online courses and so on, it's even a question of change management. These changes have brought up something I haven't thought. Even professors are capable to learn. Yeah, I've learned a lot during the last year to make online courses and to face myself in this mirror, speaking with mirrors for hours and hours during the day. So this would be an enormous challenge for all of us, not only universities, even students and the administration.
You're standing in a studio, so is that something that's become more important at the university, the digital possibilities using AV media and that type of thing?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. It is Roland, Arno. This is more your area. We are standing as Beuth Hochschule for live entertainment industry, for theater, for huge events, with thousands and thousands of people coming together, having fun, watching huge shows. But all of this does not happen right now. So we have to focus, even like content. My colleague for IT infrastructure and audio technologies, he runs the whole courses for more and more about studio technology, and I hope to hybrid structures. At the end, it will be the way that we have got events in live events, and we have kind of hybrid events. We will not come back, I think, to a point where we have been 2019, before COVID.
That's probably a good tip. Roland, I know that in Hamburg for years you've got the experimental studio set up and things like that, so you were probably well set up for the crisis, right?
Yes, so you see it. I'm sitting in a studio we're starting for nearly 1 year. It was very nice. Nobody knows that we taken it one day on this part. For nearly 1 year, people are coming in, looking and discussing about Zoom, about Teams. It's very new now. In the moment, now we're taking it. And you also see it. I can standing here because I also asked Thomas to sitting around for the laptop and looking about. So we have the discussion about AV technology, about especially information technology. I see also situation that many students go to this part. There was needed in this part about video, about technology, about networking. And it's very interesting how look about the live communication. But the moment if the people have education, have knowledge about this time, they have a good situation to get new jobs or the jobs on the event part.
Yeah, well, Arno, do you also have more classes about hybrid events, or is that a topic as well at your university?
Yes, of course. And it's not only about teaching and offering those courses, but a few students of our course program also produced the welcoming show for the whole university that took place. So it's not only about teaching, but also using it. We have our own studio and stage in Giessen for those kind of productions. So we're working on it, but it's not only the thing that people can produce things in studios. We also get used to being able to produce shows or like panel discussions or hybrid events with people who are not in the studio, but like me working from home. And I think that's a very important topic to be able to produce formats that also work in that environment.
That sort of leads me to my next question. Listening to all three of you, then what is, and I know it's a little early for this question because if you're going to start a university career, then you have to take time. And I know that the question of when can I apply for a position or to apply for a placement at a university takes a little while. But does it look like that students are sort of saying, oh, event industry, maybe it's not the right career area to be in? What's your experience? I'll go to Roland for that in Hamburg. What does it look like as far as the number of students is concerned that are interested in the curricula that you're offering?
Yeah, thank you, man. That's not the problem. The discussion what will be key on the next career. In the moment, we see that many students go to the master. Most people of us going after the bachelor to the industry because there was very nice jobs. In the moment, we see it that many of the students come back or are staying back by me and discussing let us make a master and talk about the next part. I think that the same event technology will be going to the IT system. So I see it a very interesting situation about changing. You need university are very slow, so we have one discussion about we look about extended reality, about new degree education. But in the moment, they needed either 1 or 2 years to get no new situation. As a profs of us, we can take new courses, but if you can get a new degree or a new master, it's needed many of time. So in the moment, the university on this point are very slow and not so easy as the problem will be.
And Thomas, how does that look like at the Beuth University? Do you see that there are fewer students interested, or even perhaps more?
Well, at the moment we have got more students than last year. So 1 year before the crisis, before COVID. Not only in the master courses, even at the bachelor courses. I think but it will come a change, I think. But the change will be something. What I imagine is we are all getting bored by these kind of two-dimensional facing each other technology of all these Zoom, WebEx, and Jitsi portals. What we find out maybe is more a kind of AR, VR reality to meet each other in a digital space when we cannot meet physically. And so we will more and more appreciate these rare moments of a physical event where you meet each other physically. So it will be a changement in content and a changement in live entertainment industry that mean we getting in a kind huge step forward to a kind of digitalization in events.
I'll have to move on to Arno and see what's it look like then at your university. Less students, more students?
Actually, it's a little bit too early in the year to really tell how the numbers are going to look like for the bachelor starting next September or October. But what we see is that students or people who are interested in our courses these days come from an area where they had a lot more experience in the industry, like people doing their Veranstaltungstechniker Ausbildung and stuff like that. So before that, we had a lot more people interested who just finished school and just wanted to start to study. And nowadays, it's more people seem to be interested that are already working in the industry and that want to want to get some higher education in the area. So that's a shift that we see there. And from the numbers overall, it's at the moment we don't see a change on how many students we can have. We always have more people applying than we can actually allow or admit to our courses.
That sounds very promising, what you've all said. And but I would like to move to another topic. And the VPLT, of course, is involved in Brussels with vocational educational education. And one of the big buzzwords in higher education, but also recently even in vocational educational training, is micro-credentials. In other words, putting a couple of competences together and saying this is something that perhaps people want to learn, or they want to attain some sort of certification for a small part, knowledge, competences, and of course this is in the Anglo-Saxon world. I know a possibility maybe for private universities to make more funding, make more money. But is that a topic also for the universities now here in Germany, especially in our area, that perhaps in the future, let's say bachelor degree people could go back to school for maybe just a week or 2 weeks to get some sort of micro-credentials? What do you think about that, Thomas? Is that something the Boyd University might be considering doing in the future?
Well, it sounds on the first step like a wonderful future where you can spend anywhere in Europe some kind of courses, sum it up to a kind of huge, stack it to a huge degree. 20 years ago, I was at the CeBIT. It was the biggest IT fair at this time. CeBIT does not exist anymore. At this time, I won the place for banking technologies. These banking technologies 20 years ago, the huge traditional banks with cash machines and the IT departments of these huge banks in Europe, was suddenly surrounded by mobile companies, and these mobile companies that make payments possible, micro payments. This technology of micro payments, we all use it at the moment, have pushed up a huge new industry. These banks with their IT departments, these cash machine hardware dispenser are now somehow history. Some other banks have make it in the future and have their own small companies together with other companies, banking, mobile industry, or like other companies using these micropayments. For me, it's at the moment, the university is something like the old traditional banks standing there, surrounded by huge small private companies making micro credentials, making vocational education possible. We have the challenge as a university to be more flexible in our system. At the moment, Randall, sorry, I have to say, I would say it's so difficult to make a changement in the educational system with these very strict ECTS counting, with this traditional modular system in bachelor and master, that I think we have to change it somehow. It would be a wonderful idea that long-lived learning will be possible in Europe, mobile, flexible, and for all of us, in any kind, in every branch, and at any age.
What would be your perspective, Roland, on that? Do you think that's something that maybe the HAW in Hamburg also might be interested in?
Yes, it's a very good idea about the model. As Thomas called it, it's the idea of the Bologna process to get models, to get ETC points. But at the moment, also as Thomas discussing, it's very problematic to get it in the very slow universities. We can take models, but at the moment we need some months, some years to get a new situation. It's a situation we see it also. If the people going out of the university about nearly 2 or 3 years, they need another knowledge, and so come back to us or get courses of us. So I think the idea is good, also the idea of the European company, but I think we need time to get it on the universities, to get it in our presidium, to get in our administration situation. In the moment, we can deal as people, as profs, to call people back with the Zoom meeting, look about our interesting situation. But it's a problem. We discuss here in the university nearly seit 2 years. We call it the third day or the third column, because it will be the teaching, it will be the researching, and that third day it will be the second education. But the problem to get, it's also degree, to get a certification, to get models, to get ETC points, but to get a full degree, it's a problem of the very slow university here in Hamburg.
Do you have the same obstacles, Arno, at your university as well, as far as structure is concerned?
Yes, we do. And for at least the department I'm working in, we're not really pursuing this at the moment due to what's happening at the moment. But what we're really interested in is to find a way for people in the industry to, on the one hand, be able to somehow achieve lifelong learning, but on the other hand, to also get a certificate so that they're certified and they can tell somebody, hey, I learned this, and that's a skill that I can bring to the table, because that's something that we don't have that much in the industry. It's, for years, it's been something like learning and training on the job. And I think those micro-credentials could really help in just making your own profile better and have something to show and say, okay, I know how to do this. And it's not only word of mouth, right?
Yeah, well, you know, the VPLT is an industry association, and we have good connections to all three of these universities. We're doing a project with the Boyd University in hygiene project, which we're really interested in, on the a board with Roland, Greule, and of course also with the THM in Giessen, where I just had a meeting about a month ago where we were talking about what the industry needs. Do you all feel like you have good connections to the industry, that you know what you need to offer in academic studies? And I'd go with that question first, perhaps to Roland. Do you have the feeling that you've got a good connection with the industry and what at least the industry is expecting your students to know and be able to do?
Yes, I think it's really very good to discussion about with the industry, and there's also good connection with the industry. Go to your question. I think it's a possibility to look about summer schools. If you can take it and say, come for 1 week or come for 2 weeks to us, to the university as a called summer school, and then we can the possibility make of the micro-credential. So I think it was a possibility in the moment to get the next step in the education. As we know what the industry needed, we know what the students want. It's a typical problem of the administration.
And is that the same perhaps challenge also for you in Berlin, Thomas, that the administration sometimes makes it more difficult for you to really bring to the table what you'd like to do for the students in the industry?
Well, I stand here in the space of administration here at Boyd Applied University, so I will not speak any word against Boyd University. Administration is always a problem. Bureaucracy is always a problem. It's not only a question of university. If an organization will come to a point where the overhead takes more time to organize itself than process or focus on the key points, the Wertschöpfung, then the organization will fail on the long run. Bureaucracy is a problem, and administration is a problem. Summer schools, like you spoken about, Roland, is a wonderful idea. It's great. It's great to make it and to have then a focus more on industry and then change and the discussion with partners in industry. Well, the relationship to industry, to come back to this question, is at any university, three of us, in Giessen, Hamburg, Berlin, quite good. And we always hear the same kind of Very good response. Well, our students are well educated with these kind of skills and knowledge they need basically. And we always hear the same complaint, and this is maybe the same in Hamburg or Giessen, but we need another month or 3 months or 6 months in a kind of trainee on job to show them, make it possible to work in the company. Therefore, this research project called ALPRO about art-based training and competences in event industry is very interesting, and I'm very happy to see maybe end of this year the results. So there we build up a kind of skill model of these competences which are really necessary, named the soft skills. And the soft skills are, besides of any technical trend, the basic for anybody working in event industry or in any kind of project management.
Arno, I was with Axel Barwich from your university, like I said, about a month ago, and we were talking with people from the industry. So I would think you probably have the feeling that you have a good connection with the industry, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes, I hope the feeling is mutual. Yeah, we're doing a lot of workshops with industry, and not only industry, but also our students when they come back from their mandatory internship that they have to take, because we want to know what's going on outside. Yeah, but I think workshop is one thing, internship is the other. What we also do is at the beginning of the course we have a bi-weekly event for the lower semester students, where people from the industry come in and they talk about interesting projects, and they talk about the skills that they think the students would need. And I think this is all also really important, that not only the professor or the university has the connection to the industry, but also the students, that they get that connection as soon as possible, just right from the start.
Well, you are all universities of applied science, and that used to be in Germany the old Fachhochschule, which always has been more based in practical experience, which I think is a very, very good thing coming from the Anglo-Saxon. I studied at university, but we did theater. I mean, we had 4 theaters on our campus where we did nothing but theater from the very beginning. So this practical experience is pretty well based with all 3 of the universities. But like I said, you think maybe perhaps there should be even more of that. Thomas, you were talking about the study that's coming out. Are we looking maybe also as well at saying how much practical experience do universities have to offer in comparison to the knowledge-based, the theoretical-based side that, of course, the so-called universities are very strong in? What do you think about that?
Well, this discussion is a long-term discussion, and we will not answer this today, and we maybe will not answer this in 2 years or 5 years, because we have to question this every day. What I think, every day we have to question how much theory, how much practical knowledge we try to teach to our students. To make it clear, in a kind of example, if we plan in one of my courses an event, I always have to ask myself: do I make a kind of real scenario, a real event, or do I choose a kind of scenery which is not real but better to explain? And most of the time I choose a real scenario. But a real scenario means, a real event means we have to find a solution, a real solution. And somehow these real solutions are theoretically not that way, to speak about it diplomatically. It is difficult to answer this question generally. In my opinion, it is quite necessary to have a very theoretical approach in the beginning, because only with this base, students, we all, are in the capacity to choose the right solution, solve a problem with an applied way. So I think theory is very important.
Roland, what's your perspective on that?
In the moment, we have starting the event technology in the summer, because the idea is we hope we can start it, we can show it at the 16th of July. My dean say, okay, it's no possibility, but we're starting with theory about project management, about administration management, and we're hoping that we can take really consoles. We can really take a rigging situation, and we can show it on the July if we have better weather, if we have no so great pandemic. It's necessary to get it at last also on real situation. It's a theory is very good, but if the people are going out or students going out in the industry, they had to catch the consoles, they had to catch the lighting fixtures, and so helping will be better, and we can show it, because this the theory is very good, but in real we have the University of Applied Science, as you had said, and we want people go out and they have seen the real fixtures and the real situations. I hope it will be good on summer.
Okay, that sounds like a good outlook at least. Arno, same thing probably in Giessen, right? You have a lot of practical experience, but also theory.
Yeah, sure. For the bachelor, the first 2 semesters are a lot of theory and mathematics, physics, and that kind of stuff, and also in the management area. And from then on, it gets more practical each semester, basically. And we got the same challenge as Roland and Thomas. What do we do at the moment while we cannot meet in person and give the students access to all the equipment that we have? And what we're working on in some pilot projects is to establish remote laboratories where students can log in from home to a system like a mixing console or a networking system, and they can try things out, and they can do, for example, do mixes on the console, and what they do and the EQ settings that they do, all this is being fed back to them on the in the online session. But this is, for a lot of things, these are only pilot projects, and it takes a lot of time and energy to get this up and running, and to get this up and running in a way that it works reliably 24/7 without somebody sitting next to the system and taking care of it.
Okay, in about 2 minutes, we'll be having a trailer. And I just want to remind everybody, you can send your questions. That's possible to do that just by writing below your window there. You see the possibility of asking a question. But before we make that short break, I'll stick with Arno, and just a question from our association, of course. We have a lot of senior event technicians, the so-called Meister/Meisterin in Germany. Almost all of them, if they take the new course, then they'll be a so-called bachelor professional. Probably everybody knows this. The new laws in Germany say that they're also called a bachelor professional, which of course does not mean that they have the academic title. I'm going to ask all of you, first starting with Arno, are you guys thinking about setting something up that a master or a senior event technician, as it's called in Europass, might be able to achieve a bachelor's degree, an academic degree in some way?
Well, I'm not exactly sure about the plans that we're going to focus on in the next few years, but I'm pretty sure that people would be able to apply and be admitted to our bachelor as well, and of course, and then in succession also to the master. So we already I think admit a few people who don't have the school education that would be needed to start a bachelor degree. But when they have enough experience in the industry and they can prove that somehow, there's also a possibility to admit them to the bachelor, of course. Yeah, and we're actually looking forward to that, and we like that a lot because that brings a lot of experience, on-hand experience, into the semester, and the other students can learn a lot from that. That's pretty good.
And Roland, how's that in Hamburg? Any?
Yes, we have on the year 1 or 2 from this master coming to us. We can get it some ETC points, but the problem most times will be the mathematical situation. So we to take into courses and they get to more mathematical or physical courses of the theory, and then we can take it also on the ETC. It's a very idea also in Hamburg to get more people from the practice to the university, but it's some problem to get it at last a bachelor. They had to, as it's called, needed the situation of mathematical and also of the physical situation. It's a good idea. We're discussing it, but it's also a problem of the theory.
Okay, then we'll finish off this part with Thomas. What about the Beuth University?
Well, it is nearly of course, nearly the same because we're the same kind of administration. But I've got a very good example. 1 year ago, there was one student calling me. It was online, calling me and asked me if he will be accepted in one course for the 2 semester. It was not necessary to make this course for him because he was a Meister Veranstaltungstechnik, and this course would be accepted and integrated in the system. A total it is in a bachelor nearly 2 semester, which can be accepted because of the Meister Ausbildung. But at the end of this semester, in summer, there was this moment where there was at this time no lockdown. I'm meeting him physically in the beer garden and ask him because I was quite interested why he has done it, and there was no need to do it. And he told me, well, it was very interesting, the course, and he has learned a lot. Thanks for that. He has learned a lot because the approach as a bachelor professional, so a Meister, to knowledge is a totally different approach than an applied university can serve. And this was a moment where I come to the final point that both education, the vocational education and the higher education, have their standing and their need. We should not give up vocational education or higher education and mesh it up to a mixture which is at the end nothing. We have to keep both kinds of education. They have their standing, they have their need, and we have to open it to those students, Meister, who want a kind of higher education. And this open means online courses, university degrees which are possible to make while you are working in a company on weekends. So open it, but not meshing up. That is very important, I think.
That sounds good, Thomas. So we'll go to the trailer, and like I said, don't forget to ask your questions. Felix will be right back. Thank you. We'll be right back.
And we are back with the questions from our audience. First of all, thank you very much, Randall and gentlemen. Of course, a very, very interesting discussion going on here, and I'm pretty sure we could continue for hours. It is a huge topic, and we have an amazing amount of questions. And we have one question that actually has been asked a lot of times. So Pete is one of the people asking these questions. What graduates jobs opportunities in these uncertain times with event management degrees? Or what are graduates jobs opportunities?
Who wants to field that question?
Right?
Why don't we start with Arno? What type of jobs do your graduates? What type of jobs do your graduates get in the business?
Well, most start to work in some kind of planning capacity, something like that. And from what we gather is that even though the pandemic is what it is, companies start to prepare for new events and also different types of events now. And there's a lot of I think that there are requests for people who have the knowledge how to do hybrid events and all virtual events and that kind of stuff. And that's something where we look into and where we try to educate our students in. So yeah, and there's also one more point that we didn't really talk about yet, which I would like to make, is that even though it's very difficult to study at the moment, and for us it's difficult to teach, but the students learned something during the pandemic that generations before didn't have the chance to learn, and that is remote collaboration, working in remote teams, even large international remote teams, in a way that wasn't done before. And I think as bad as the pandemic is, this is a big plus, and that is something where we made a huge step forward.
Then maybe Thomas in Board University, what about your graduates? Maybe a little more theater-based, perhaps?
Of course, it's theater-based, but not only. Arno's point is very important. Thank you for that, Arno. It is we all have learned during this year to work without physical presentation in teams together, and the students also have worked, and that is an enormous challenge for all, and it is an enormous plus for the future. If we think about the real crisis is not the pandemic crisis. The real crisis is the ecological, the climate crisis. And to connect both is a very important point. So to not meet only for meeting each other, you will meet in future in conventions, seminar, workshops only physically if there's a real need to meet physically. And that is good for the future and is good for the ecology. To make a point back to your question, Randall, it is where our students work. They work in technical planning offices. They work and still work, of course, in theater. There's still a very strong need for future higher educated employees in theater in Germany. For those coming from abroad, is mostly state-run. So these theater will not close during the next years. It is state-funded. With technical planning, theater, and of course all of these kind of media management, media engineering, not only for event industry, even for huge kind of convention centers to make the planning there. Like planning a kind of places for studios, like this one here, is some other job for our students.
And Roland, what about your bachelor and graduate students? What type of job profiles do they fill?
Okay. You see it here. We're thinking about the virtual reality here, research center, and we see situation about the extended reality to get together the situation of real events and extended reality. And so I see the possibility if somebody knows about how can we make it, how can we make a situation of hybrid events. So it's very interesting for the people. Or I see it also on the virtual production to be on real studios which talk Thomas, or the possibility if you get a LED wall behind us and we can take it on a virtual production. So I see it. People need about information technology, about networking, and there will be very good jobs in the next time.
So there are many jobs you covered. Yes, next question is, during the pandemic, many companies have a hiring freeze. Do you see the crisis as a good opportunity for companies to secure talented professionals right now to have a competitive advantage after the lockdown? Randall, what's your point on that?
My point from this industry association would be gung-ho. Sure, I would tell our members as well. I mean, we are hoping that it depends on the vaccination rate and things, but we will have an event industry. We will have a live performance industry. It will be different. I think all of our speakers today have made that clear. We'll have much more hybrid events, but there will also be live events. So those who are positioning themselves for the future, we probably will have problems. A lot of people have left the industry. We know this from our membership because the pandemic has taken a long time. So a lot of the experts have moved on maybe to other industries. So this could be a good time, but I would ask the professors here also perhaps to comment on that. Why don't we start with Roland this time?
Yes, the situation about, I see people have very knowledge about e-technique. It's going to the industry. I see it, I'm hoping that will be started or start up in the next half a year on this year. In the moment, we see it's a problem that many of the people are waiting, hoping that about next situation, about, I call it rocket bridge, nearly 300 days without jobs. It's a very problem. On the other side, we hope that the people want to like live events, and so the jobs coming on this part. So I'm hoping we will be back in the next half a year if there's a pandemic in it's down or it's a very small pandemic situation.
Anyone else want to comment on that?
I just like to give that question back, saying why only do that during the pandemic, right? Securing talent, you can do that anytime, and you should do that when there's a student coming in as an intern, and they're making good impression, and they're good and good educated. Why not? Stay in touch and secure a job for them when they're done.
That's excellent personnel planning. Good idea to have. And I think it's important, too, for everyone to understand we do have these universities in this sector because we need highly trained people. I mean, that's the reason why we have 3 universities of applied sciences and arts.
Leads us to a final question, which is an interesting one as well. Are you concerned that workers trained during the corona pandemic will be, a competitive disadvantage because companies fear deficits in the quality of their training?
Thomas, you want to answer that? I mean, basically you already have in saying that they've learned a lot more, right? So you don't see any problem there?
Absolutely no. They learn so much. It is not a disadvantage. Absolutely not. It is an advantage to work in this kind of crisis situation. Crisis management is one of these soft skills. Any leadership in event industry should have. So we have this kind of capabilities, abilities, and competences to work in flexible, difficult situations, and this is something we have right now.
Yeah, I don't think everybody should have pandemic experiences, but the point is clear, absolutely. That's like a crisis always brings people to their biggest possibilities. So, yeah, what's your point on that? Do you think
No,
any
I would-
deficits will be a disadvantage after the crisis?
It's very difficult to say. Of course, I think it's in some ways perhaps an individual question as well, depending on what type of student you are, what type of person you are. I'm not saying that this crisis is not going to cause in all areas of education. We see it in vocational educational training as well. I teach at the DA Plus. We can't do any location checks, those types of things. Of course, it would be better if we could do that. But I would agree with our panel here that the crisis situation has shown we have to be able to organize ourselves online, organize ourselves over, not just over the personal meetings, but even online. So I think there's been a lot learned as well, and we'll have to see what happens. But I have no worries whatsoever at all that the bachelors and masters coming from these universities will not have the same quality than their people before them. I would agree with the panel here that they'll probably even be better.
Possibly, sure. Well, I'm done with my questions. Randall, do you have any final thoughts? Arno has. He raises
Arno.
his hands.
I just wanted to add one point to the question before, where we're talking about current talents. I mean, and I think that's the same in Hamburg and Berlin. There's also the possibility of having bachelor's thesis being written in cooperation with a company. So that might be even a better way of getting to know your future talents or the people working for you. So there's also a big advantage of not only securing new talent in terms of offering a contract well before they're done with their study, but also being there while they study and also make use of the advantage of having a bachelor thesis being written in a company from maybe a person that you would like to employ afterwards.
Sure.
I think a final statement for me would simply be, like I said, we're very, very fortunate to have these 3 universities here in Germany. And as Thomas was saying, people from outside Germany can also apply to all 3. So that's not a problem either. Many courses are also in English. And I know that we have a very, very high standard at all 3 of these universities. So from our position as an association, we're very, very pleased that we have the universities here. And we're also pleased with what they're doing. And they are really different. That's why I can simply tell younger people that are thinking about studying in our industry, take a look at the websites. There are different places of focus, interests in all of the universities that you can attend. But like I said, I think we're very fortunate in that case.
Great. Thank you very much, Randall. And of course, thank you very much. And greetings to Giessen, Hamburg and Berlin. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here this afternoon. And we will continue with a big highlight in just a few moments. Actually, at 3 o'clock, we will be having our award ceremony of Opers and Seniors. See you then.